What is good, defenders, and welcome to episode 346, 4 away from 350 of the most LAFC podcast on the planet. This is Defenders of the Bank since season 1, and now the Ocho is upon us. Welcome, everybody, and again, however you are accessing Defenders of the Bank, thank you so much. Whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or any of the social or podcast media platforms, social media platforms that you get us on, hello and thank you. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you to everybody who's in the chat on Instagram as well. And oh my goodness, do we have a fun one to talk about here on episode 346, entitled Finally a Leg Up on Columbus. You know my voice. It's the Scarf, J.R. Liebert, coming to you live from Lawndale and across the interwebs. I give you, amidst a backdrop of Defenders of the Bank, Black and Gold Running Club, and all kinds of other Black and Gold paraphernalia, one LAFC Lafferty.
Good evening, Scarf. Good evening, Defenders. It is a joy to be back with you, talking about a victory over those thorns in our side, and I'm not talking about Portland, the Columbus Crew. It is good to be with everybody. Thank you for everybody in the chat. Hello to everybody joining us on YouTube right now, and if you're saving this for the morning, for your morning commute, hello, and I hope you're having a smooth drive into work.
Yes, sir. It's raining everywhere across the Southland right now. So if it's raining where you are, stay safe out there. Genuine Cougar goes, and what about the Galaxy? They lost again tonight. Yeah, they've had a rough go to their season. But look, we've had a rough go against Columbus the last 3 times. But just like absolutely everybody saw coming, LAFC smacks the Columbus Crew 3-0. It could have been 5 or 6. We will get into that, but my, oh my, what a match. An instant classic in front of about 7,300 people at BMO Stadium. More on that in just a second. We want to remind everybody that the Mo Facio Futsal Court fundraising effort is still underway. Head on over to LAFC.com/Mo-Facio to donate towards the futsal court effort. Again, 3-0. If you've got an extra $30, great. That would be what I would donate. But you know what? If everybody out there listening to this podcast went on over to that donation site and just donated $3, one for each goal, we would get there so much quicker. It would be incredible, and we want to go have a kickabout over on Mo Facio's futsal court in Cudahy. Really want that to happen. And again, as Lafferty reminded us a couple of episodes ago, beautiful mural on the north end wall of Mo Facio. So make sure that if you are at the stadium, make sure you take a look at that one. Before we get into all of this day in LAFC history, and we have some momentous history on this day in LAFC history, and one bit of news and notes, something we got to talk about first, and I'm going to give you all plenty of reasons why I get why it was what it was. But Chris Lafferty, for only the 4th time in LAFC history, for only the 4th time in BMO Stadium / Bank of California Stadium history, the black and gold, not LAFC 2, not some other scrimmage, the black and gold played in front of fewer than 10,000 people, and this one was by a whole lot. The announced attendance, 7,285 at BMO Stadium for the 3-0 beatdown of Columbus Crew. Let me get your thoughts on that first, Chris, and I will give you my thoughts at the end as well.
Well, as somebody who contributed to the deficit of fans in the stadium, I have to say these all the matches back to back have been kind of adding up for me. And being a weekend, it was hard for me to get down there. Things just got away from me, as is probably the case for a lot of people. they probably looked at it and said, gee, there's also no way I'm going to get there for the start of kickoff. So maybe they just decided to watch it from home like I did. It was one of those ones where I was definitely kicking myself afterwards because I was like, maybe I could have pulled it off and gotten down there. And then I would have had my pick of any seat in the house, which is rare. So that was my biggest regret for not being able to be there last night. Well, second biggest regret. First biggest regret was I didn't get to see us beat Columbus 3-0.
Yeah, and you would have been all up in the nickname for that last goal. One more time, the nickname that you have coined for one Nathan Ordaz. One more time for all of us, please. I don't know what just happened, but your audio is a little off right now. That was a little weird. I don't know what happened, but let's see.
I guess I'll just have to say it again.
Nathan
Ordaz gave him the old razzle dazzle.
There you go. Look, Nate, Coach and Nate both kind of dumped on Nate after the match. Said he didn't have a very good game at all. In fact, Coach Steve Cherundolo said, other than that moment, Nate had a pretty bad game. And then Nate said the same thing afterwards. Look, I've got some thoughts on the attendance at 7,285. First of all, even after I say everything that I say, I'm still shocked that we only had 7,285 in the building. I'll be perfectly honest, still shocked. However, let's look at what has happened in our season so far. So far, we have pretty much played Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday. I mean, we're only 5 games in, but it feels like we've played 10. We also had the friendly against Club America. And, oh, by the way, the friendly against Club America was pretty much full price for all of the tickets in all of the stadium. The matches in CONCACAF Champions Cup, full price pretty much for all the tickets in all of the stadium. And, of course, the 2 regular season home games that are full price. I get it, right? CONCACAF Champions Cup, it's not something like the Open Cup where, for instance, the Galaxy offer free as part of your season ticket package U.S. Open Cup matches. They don't offer it for CONCACAF Champions Cup, and rightfully so. And look, CONCACAF Champions Cup is the one you want to play in, not Leagues Cup and not Open Cup. I get it, and you're talking to the biggest Open Cup apologist on the planet. I want to go play myself in the U.S. Open Cup. Chris Lafferty loves it so much, he's wearing the T-shirt for the championship of the U.S. Open Cup. But I get it. But this is CONCACAF Champions Cup. And so this one does matter more because this means we can move on to the Club World Cup. However, here's the other thing that's been happening. All of those matches have also included $65 if you're paying the day of to park, which I have to be honest. If you ask almost any supporter of LAFC, if they opted in, it's been a ton of money spent early in the season, extra than you might have thought, plus an extra $65 to park. And if you're a Club America supporter, it's a ton more money that you've spent in this offseason. It's just getting really expensive for a lot of people to make it to this many games in this short of a time, especially, and I'm not going to get political here, but amidst the current backdrop of our economy where eggs are just ridiculous and the price of everything seems to be going up. I think that's part of it. Now, another thing I will say is this. Right down the road, the Lakers were playing and LeBron James was going for his 50,000th point in his career, which sounds like a made-up video game number, but he really has done it. It's absolutely unbelievable. While Luka Doncic, by the way, was rattling off 15 assists in that game and 30 points. I mean, the dude is absolutely incredible. And, oh, by the way, our new guy, Roki Sasaki for the Dodgers, was pitching during a spring training game. So a lot of people might have been watching that. And, oh, by the way, says the teacher, it was a school night. It was a Tuesday. So many different reasons why I get that people couldn't be at the match. I'm shocked at the number, 7,285. Lafferty, I have another follow-up question for you, my friend. Let me go through the only four times that LAFC has played at BMO Stadium / most of these were Bank of California Stadium, when it's been under 10,000 people. Now, the lowest attended match in history was actually last year against New Mexico United in the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinals, where they had 6,095 people. 6,095. That's not a lot. That's a lot less than 7,285. Then there's the match against the Crew, 7,285. And then back in our inaugural season, we played 2 Open Cup matches under 10,000 people. But Fresno FC, the Foxes, Somos Zorros, said the Scarf. I have one somewhere. The Fresno FC Foxes outdrew the Columbus Crew. They had 7,500 people for their game, and they had 8,750 people for the next round against Sacramento Republic. Of those 4 matches, we know you didn't make it to Columbus Crew. How many of the other 3 can you say you were at?
New Mexico United. I was there, and a big contributing factor to that total was a lot of New Mexico fans coming in for that one. Yeah. Shout out to those guys. We had Carlos from like one of their supporters union on the show for One More Sleep, actually, the night before that game. The other 2 were in 2018, which were actually before I moved here. But I will say, in fact, in June 7th is the day before my birthday, so I had other things in my mind. But Fresno FC and Sacramento Republic, 2 California teams, can't really bank on the interstate rivalry that we have with those 2 teams. But that was also the first season of our existence, so I would imagine even the lowest drawing games would still draw more than some of them 7-8 years down the road.
No, for sure. And pour one out for Fresno FC, no longer in existence. In fact, they folded, I think, the year after, or maybe even that year. Nice yerba mate they have there. They folded, I think, after that year. I'll have to double check. It might have been the year after. But look, I get
we drove into oblivion.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I get not drawing for New Mexico United, Fresno FC, and Sacramento Republic, but man, just a shock that we had 7,285 there. I was at all 4 of those matches, oddly enough. So that was kind of fun. And you're right, that New Mexico United game, while there were only 6,000 there, they might have had 300 or 400 supporters from New Mexico United, which was really great. They did a really wonderful job. Let's get into a very quick bit of this day in LAFC history, because of course, if you've been a fan of the black and gold, as long as we've been a fan of the black and gold, we played that match against Columbus Crew on Tuesday, March 4th. And let's see, is it this one? Yeah, here you go. On the bottom of this scarf right here, March 4th, 2018. If you took the plane flight to Seattle for the very first game, you got one of these scarves right here on the back of your seat, courtesy of Delta Airlines. It says, I think the flight number is right here. We got DL2714. Now, full disclosure, I was not on the flight to Seattle that everybody took to get there, but I was on the flight back with the team. Like, the team is sitting in coach right next to us on the way back from Seattle that same night. We flew back that same night, and Bob Bradley is like 4 rows, like right up there. Like there's Bob, and there's Stephen Betashore, and there's Mark Anthony Kay, and there's, hey, that's what James Murphy looks like. All right, cool. There's all the guys. And we were absolutely shocked that we got on the same plane on the way back, but it's got obviously a massive tie-in because on that day, 8 years ago now, Diego Rossi, of all people, got himself a song immortalizing himself in the North End in the 11th minute. Diego Rossi scored the first goal against the Sounders, and that was the chant at the 11th minute for the first several years of our existence. Let me throw out a couple of moments in history from that match. Obviously, Diego Rossi in the 11th minute, scoring to inspire the chant. How about Laurent Simon wearing the captain's armband in our first match? Laurent Simon would give us some incredible memories. First yellow card in history happens in the 69th minute. That would be Benny Feilhaber with the first yellow card. There you go. Tristan Blackman becomes the first sub in team history in the Philly minute, in the 80th minute. He comes on for Marco Urena. And I think, did you say, yeah, now he's wearing number 33 for Vancouver, right? He's
Yeah, for those keeping track of Tristan Blackman, which is just one of the obscure things I do. He was one of my favorite players, to watch with us. When he left us, where he was wearing number 27, then he went to Vancouver, took over number 6, and this year he's wearing number 33. Interesting. I brought it up for this reason. I like obscure stats. 27 with us, then 6. 33. The difference between that is 6.
Yeah, his old number. Yeah, no.
All of his numbers connect.
I love Tristan Blackman. The first greatest goalkeeper in team history, Tyler Miller, recording the first clean sheet in team history. 7 massive saves for Tyler Miller up there in Seattle. And of course, it was the MLS debut of João Moutinho, Diego Rossi, Marc-Anthony Kaye, Tristan Blackman, and one Carlos Vela. LAFC recorded a whopping 5 shots in the entire match. 5. And only one on target. The only one on target was by Diego Rossi in the 11th minute, in the back of the net. Oh, by the way, Seattle Sounders fired off 22 shots, 7 of which were on target, and we held on for dear life. I remember walking out of the stadium and hearing one of the Seattle Sounders supporters going, well, I didn't expect that. Are we supposed to hate these guys now? Like, what just happened? Like, they were shell-shocked.
You know what? They do hate us. Hey, okay.
Yeah, it's definitely been earned. That's for sure. Also, on March 5th, we have four incredibly important birthdays on March 5th. You ready for this? How about Marco Urena, born March 5th, 1990? How about 3 umlauts, Nico Hamalainen, born March 5th, 1997? How about Diego Rossi, born March 5th in 1998? And most importantly, you guys, we just got back from dinner. My mom, Mama Scarf, born on March 5th. It doesn't matter what year, but happy birthday to Mama Scarf. It's her birthday today. We went out to a restaurant in Inglewood called Sunday Gravy. Excellent pasta. We had a wonderful time. She had a glass of wine and just couldn't be happier taking care of Mama on her birthday. So it's just, it's been a fun day. So there you go. This day in LAFC.
Happy birthday to Mama Scarf for me.
Absolutely. I will let her know. Concluding this day in LAFC history, Tyler Miller and Laurent Simon both named to MLS Week 1 Team of the Week in 2018. The first time it ever happened. So there you
go. Did you invite Diego Rossi to stay back and go to dinner with you tonight?
Did I invite Diego Rossi to stay back? Yeah, your sound is a little off every now and then, so be careful. I don't know what's going on with the sound. But turns out Diego Rossi, he was already rolling around somewhere in the parking lot complaining about some things. So no Diego Rossi at dinner tonight. Carlos, thank you for wishing my mom a happy birthday. And Giorgio Chiellini, everyone was so excited to see you at the stadium last night. I didn't get a chance to go say hi to Giorgio, but Giorgio was one of the 7,285 in attendance last night for that match. One little bit of news and note Congratulations to Marlon for making Team of the Match Day for Match 1 for Major League Soccer, and Ryan Hollingshead for being named Team of the Match Day for Match Day 2. So, yay. There you go. That's the end of this day in LAFC history. I want to remind everybody that on Sunday, March 9th, the Vancouver Whitecaps 2 will be helping LAFC 2 kick off the regular season for the MLS Next Pro, and apparently defenders of the Open Cup Championship for LAFC. LAFC 2 will be playing at Titan Stadium, Cal State Fullerton, Sunday, March 9th at 7 p.m. So if you can get down there, come support our boys of LAFC 2. And as a reminder, for all your Angel City needs, please make sure you listen to the Angel City Chicks and follow them on all of your social media platforms. Everybody is in the chat. And again, thank you, Carlos. Appreciate you. Okay, Chris Lafferty. March 4th, 2025 was a day, I believe you said, you probably put it best, there was trepidation for the club that was walking into BMO Stadium.
That's correct. The thing about it is there was a lot of hesitation. On my part, I was a little worried because while I've loved how we've looked in the first few games, it's Columbus. And not only has Columbus beaten us 3 times, but they've beaten us 3 different ways. Coming into this, you had the MLS Cup final where they kind of just steadily had the upper hand throughout the entire match, even though it was still close. Then we had our rematch game at BMO Stadium last year where they came in and just annihilated us with one of the worst defeats in BMO Stadium history. It was 5-0 against us.
5-1.
Where they put up 5-1, where they put up 5 on us, just beat us from pillar to post all night. And then we go the following week after that, or shortly after that, playing them in the Cash Grab Cup final. And it was one of those ones that we had them, and just right at the last couple of minutes, things fell apart for us, but it was anybody's game up until then. So it was a showdown to the very end. So they just seemed to find a way to beat us and had our number every time we played them. No matter how they did it, they found a way. So you have to wonder, how are they going to do it this time? But you also have a lot of hope with the guys that they've lost in their roster turnover from the offseason. So we'd have to see how it played out. But you are watching this one kind of biting your nails at the same time.
Yeah, look, I'm going to say something that I think I said to several people at the stadium before the match, and maybe I even said it on One More Sleep. I don't remember. But I looked at the roster, right? And I'll be perfectly honest about the way I felt about Columbus's roster. The most intimidating thing about the roster was the guy on the sidelines, Wilfred Nancy, who I truly believe, I think Steve Trundlow is an incredible coach. And I know a lot of people on here, that's a sticking point for them. They're still on the fence when it comes to Dolo, or maybe some people are off the fence. I don't know. On different sides of the fence for sure. But I do think that Steve Trundlow is one of the very best coaches in Major League Soccer. I really do believe that. I also believe, though, in that group, in that very small group of maybe top 2 or 3 coaches in all of Major League Soccer, has to be Wilfred Nancy. I mean, to look at what he did with that Columbus Crew team. Now, he has had a ton of talent. And you said it. It was the names that weren't there. When I was looking up and down the roster, I just thought, look, I know what Diego Rossi's capable of. I just don't think we're going to let him do it. I know what Darlington Nagbe is capable of, but even though the guy is only 34, he's 6 matches away from playing in 500 matches in an MLS shirt. 500. And Darlington Nagbe, by the way, one of my favorite players of all time in Major League Soccer. But I look at No Cucho. I look at Aiden Morris playing over in Bournemouth across the pond. I look at Christian Ramirez, of all people, who is a legitimate striker in this league. I know, say what you want to say about what he did here, but he is a legitimate striker in this league. He's now, of course, wearing an Herbalife sash. And Yaya Boa came to the good guys. He's with us now. And we all know what Yayaboa did in that match. He ran right behind Ryan Hollingshead and scored an absolute beautiful goal. With all of those guys being out, I got to be honest, y'all. I looked at the roster and I thought, where's it going to come from? Now, granted, we've won a whole heck of a lot of games, 1-0 so far this season. So if you go back to one more sleep, the scoreline that I thought we were going to see last night was 1-0. I really did. But I looked at that roster and I went, does A.Z. Jackson do it for anybody? Does Sean Zawadzki or Andres Herrera, who are both relatively good offensive midfielders, does that do it for anybody? And I just looked up and down the roster and I said, no, this isn't it. Here's the incredible part too. I looked at those rosters and I looked at the starting lineups from 2023 in that MLS Cup final. That MLS Cup final in 2023, I thought it was bad when Columbus only started five of the same guys. Patrick Schulte, Steven Morera, more on him in a second, Malty Amundsen, Diego Rossi, and Darlington Nagbe. I was like, wow, they only started 5 guys from that. And then I look over at us and we start 3. We started 3 guys who started that 2023 final. Ryan Hollingshead, Timmy Tillman, and Denis Bouanga. That's the only 3 guys who started for us in that final. So I just looked at Columbus up and down that roster, and I don't know. I wasn't scared, but I think you put the best word on it. There was trepidation. And look, a lot of people in the chat are saying PTSD, right? Kind of the same thing. It just wasn't the Columbus crew of those last 3 games. And everybody remembers that game at BMO where it felt like we just got put in the corner 5-1. I mean, that was awful. And oh, by the way, how about Neil McGuinness? How about Neil McGuinness coming over from Columbus? You guys all know Neil McGuinness, right? You guys, we love our buddy, Neil McGuinness, LAFC's technical director who spent a bunch of time with Columbus. That's where he came from. It was really nice to see Neil at the end of the match and saying that a lot of the other players on Columbus. But look, we took from them, right? We took Neil, we took Yayaboa. We fooled them into sending Christian Ramirez down to Carson and Purgatory. I wasn't scared. I just wasn't scared. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
You're right not to be scared, except for our, the past history that we had. But given the current state, you look at what they've done so far in their 2 MLS matches. They've put up they won 4-2 against Chicago, and they won 1-0 against New England. Now the thing about that 4-2 game was one of those goals came from an own goal from someone on Chicago. So it looked dominant because it was surprising, because we all thought Columbus, with all their turnover, was going to be just dead to rights. And then they came up and put up 4, even though one was an own goal. But here's the thing. They only have 2 goal scorers for all those 5 goals that they have. One was an own goal, and the others come from just 2 players. And aside from that, only 2 other players on Columbus even have shots on goal. So everything's only coming. All of their production is really boiled down to just 2 players, Diego Rossi and Jason Russell-Rowe. So it's nice now when you don't have to worry about the threats that we had with Cucho and Christian Ramirez, because when we would play them in the last 2 years, all the attacks were coming from all over the place. So it seems like now we were able to manage all of our threats and mitigate them much easier this time.
Sure. I mean, look, Aiden Morris was the best player on the pitch when Columbus beat Portland in MLS Cup several years ago. Andre Horta is in the chat, everybody. I'm just going to leave that there. Giorgio Chiellini, of course, was in the building, so maybe Columbus got a little shook seeing Giorgio in a suit that probably cost more than my car. So let's get into the lineups here. We're about a half hour into the match. Let's talk about it. It was Wilfred Nancy, of course, on the sideline for Columbus. And they came out in a 3-5-1-1, at least according to MLSsoccer.com. We mentioned the guys that no longer play for Columbus, but they were pretty healthy coming into this match for sure. In goal, current U.S. men's national team prospect, Patrick Schulte, who, by the way, I finally, for the first time, saw our good friend in the press room, Justin Ruderman and Patrick Schulte in the same room together. They look uncannily alike each other. So I thought they were the same person for at least a little while, but no, it is indeed not Justin Ruderman. It was Patrick Schulte. On the back line with Malti Edmondson and Yevon Sheberko, who started Malti Edmondson, who started in that MLS Cup final, and Yevon Sheberko, who actually also played in that MLS Cup final, just didn't start, is the reigning 2024 Defensive Player of the Year, the defending best 11 at his position, and an all-star. That would be one Steven Moreira. And I got a lot to say about what LAFC did to one Steven Moreira, who probably had one of the worst games of his professional career in this match with LAFC. In the midfield, Andres Herrera, Dylan Rochambeau, Darlington Nagbe, Sean Zawadzki, and DeJuan Jones, and of course, A.Z. Jackson and Diego Rossi up top. And look, Darlington Nagbe, guy is an all-timer in Major League Soccer. He's won U.S. Open Cup. He's won Leagues Cup. He's a 2-time Campeones Cup winner, a 4-time MLS Cup winner. He won the 2017 Gold Cup with the U.S. men's national team. He's got like the 7th most games played in the MLS regular season all time. And oh, by the way, is 6 matches away from 500 in an MLS shirt. You have something on Darlington Nagbe there, sir?
Yeah, interesting that we talked about last year after the Columbus game was I saw him play an MLS game in 2011.
I love that. He's been around. I mean, that was his first season. He was a rookie in 2011. So you got to see him play his rookie year. I think he played 27 total matches that year.
So let's put it into perspective this way. I missed watching him versus John Thorrington by a season.
Oh, man. Right? That's pretty cool. I love that. So, Diego Rossi, by the way, he's still 9th all-time in games played for LAFC, still 3rd in goals behind Carlos Vela and Denis Bouanga, and 4th in assists. So I miss that guy. In the 18, the guys who would play for Columbus were Max Arfston, who had an incredible moment in the match, Mo Farsi, the aforementioned Jason Russell Rowe, Taha Habrune, and Cole Moroka. Some interesting stuff there that we'll unpack from Columbus Crew. But Chris Lafferty, will you give us, please, the rundown for who the starting lineup would be for LAFC?
I would be honored. In goal, we had Hugo Lloris manning the pipes as he has done so well this year. Sergi Palencia, Aaron Long, and Marlon, who we mentioned before, Ryan Hollingshead coming off of his wonderful game-winning goal from against New York City. Marky Delgado in the midfield, along with Igor Jesus and our guy Timothy Tillman, who we'll talk about a little bit more later. And up front, we had David Martinez, Jeremy Bobasi, and Denny Bouanga. In the 18 coming in, we had Nathan Ordaz, Eddie Segura, and Nkosi Tafari.
Yeah, I kind of want to find a nickname for Nkosi Tafari. He's like he's
never seen in LAFC. That's not really a catchy nickname, I know, but it's what I'm going with for now.
Wait, say that again. Your audio kind of cut out a little bit again.
Was the man with the greatest name we've ever seen in LAFC. It's not a nickname. It's not catchy. It's not quick, but it's true. It's true. The man painted stars in his hair before the game last week on a whim.
You ever seen Spaceballs?
Yes.
Okay. So you know the part where Michael Winslow is making all the sound effects? He's got the bleeps, the creeps, and the sweeps. That whole thing where and he's talking into the microphone, and finally he takes it away, and it still sounds the exact same. That's definitely what you sound like there again. Sorry, your audio on occasion has gotten muffled. And both times that you tried to explain to us the nickname for Nkosi Tafari. So I guess we'll leave it as a mystery and wait till next episode to see what Chris Lafferty thinks the nickname for Nkosi Tafari should be. Andy Diosa in the chat. Oh, I love it. Andy, I swear to God, if Chrysostamo comes back on this team, oh my God. We had this man, Andy Diosa. If you guys aren't listening to his podcast, please make sure you check out Andy Diosa's podcast. He is an absolutely incredible human. Kicking it real. Hold on, I'm gonna butcher the name.
Kicking it real.
Kicking it real, right? Kicking it real. Want to make sure I get it right. Kicking the real, right? Kicking the real. Want to make sure I get it right for Andy. Andy is a longtime friend. You may have to go back out on location to the park, is what people are saying. It sounded much better out there. I love it. Look, let's get into the first half. Make sure you guys are listening to Andy Diosa, Kicking the Real podcast. Love that guy. He's one of the best humans that you'll meet, especially in the press room there. Really good dude. In the first half, look, I love Igor Jesus. I know some people out there are kind of nitpicky on this kid right now, on the 21-year-old kid wearing a number 6 who got thrown right in the middle of our system from day one. Steve Trundle said, here, I know you're only 21, but here's the keys. Go ahead and be our number 6. Absolutely love this kid. Go back and watch, everybody. Please go back and watch the 16th minute ball that Igor Jesus very quickly delivers to Denis Bwanga on the left. How decisive he was with that ball. I love the way that he can be very, very decisive. Yes, there have been 1 or 2 times this season, including one that cost us a goal, where he tries to do too much with the ball, needs to get it off his feet a little bit quicker, and he forgets that he's playing against better competition than he's played against before. I'm all for it. I get that, right? But my thing is, this kid is 21. He is absolutely coming into his own. I wanted to strangle him when he got the yellow card in the 29th minute. I hear you, everybody. But he is so good and so young right now. And he is playing so well in the 16th minute. Again, a great effort from Denis, but an even better ball from Igor Jesus. And I seem to remember, and I tweeted this out because I'm humble, one of my keys to the match was that we start fast. And I will take a goal at 19 minutes, 45 seconds or so as starting fast. Chris Lafferty, the absolute larceny in front of 7,285 people, what Denis Bwanga did to the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Best 11 and All-Star Steven Moreira, it was criminal there, right in front of the 18.
Yeah, I'm not going to come up with a nickname for it because that'll just kill my audio. But I will say, when you put it that way and call it a larceny, and that number of many people, that's a lot of witnesses that witnessed that crime. But you know what? That's the great thing about Denis is no matter what, it's all about what's inside the lines for him. He's not going to get rattled whether there's nobody there or it's a sold out crowd or anything like that. You are getting that same energy from Denis no matter what. And, Steve talked about it a lot in the press conference when somebody asked how maybe relieving it was. I forgot what they said, that he was finally able to start putting a couple in. And, the thing is with Denis, the work is always there. And you just had to wait for that dam to break with him. And I think last night was the night.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we got vintage Denis, which we needed just in the nick of time to get his season going for sure. In the 25th minute, we talk about a quick, decisive move from Igor Jesus. When David Martinez makes one touch, shifts that ball over to his left, and fires, that is a special skill that kid has. Well, sir. Hello.
So, what do you want to talk about?
Well, right now we're talking about David Martinez and his special left foot, but we were just about to get Philly to I don't know. How about Diego Rossi's 39th minute? I don't know, attempt-ish? Here's the more important question. By the way, everybody, Christian Philly Philemon,
Greetings.
What would you like to talk about before we hit halftime?
What would I like to talk to you about halftime?
Yeah. Before we hit halftime, what do you want to talk about?
Just looking here. I got to tell you, that pocket that Moreira got the better of and Denis towards the end, that was pretty interesting. So how Denis pickpockets Moreira to score the first goal in the 21st minute. If you vaguely remember in that 45th, and you're smiling, is there something I said?
No, go right ahead. I'm just happy you're here, buddy.
Oh, okay, cool. Yes, that was, I feel like Moreira definitely got the better of Denis on that. I just sort of tuned in, so forgive me if I'm regurgitating things. But Martinez had his moments. He certainly did. Marky Delgado, I think, has been our best player of the season. I think we've talked about that. Genuine Cougar, it doesn't matter if you're a Hello Kitty fan. Hello Kitty is a fan of you, Genuine Cougar. But for the most part, look, I mean, in that first half, we had 7 shots, 3 of them on target. If you go back to it, Columbus only had 3 shots with 0 on target. And if you go over the course of the entire game, which we absolutely will, our back line has been really, really staunch. And our goal by Denis, it was courtesy of playing defensively. I think this team is really starting to step into the mold of a head coach that really specialized as a defender. And that's exactly what Steve did during his time in the Bundesliga. And make no mistakes of it. I've said this time and time again. Germans don't necessarily like people that from the outside, and particularly they didn't care for Americans in the 90s. I can tell you this from experience, having lived there from 94 to 98. Steve won the hearts of the Germans by playing defense. And I think this team is going to win the hearts of more people at LAFC because they are playing defensively. Is it the prettiest style of football? It maybe will be. I like what Ryan Hollingshead said a couple of press conferences ago, where he said the final third is the thing that really comes into fruition as the team starts getting better and more comfortable with one another. But they held Columbus with no shots in the first half on target. That's pretty solid. Now, Cucho would have made a difference, but ain't no Cucho around here.
Andre Horta in the chat just wants to know if anybody wants to talk about Andre Horta.
I still haven't forgiven you for giving up that goal to the Galaxy back in your very first season. Although I would say you were rather snake-bitten because shortly after that, you did hit the crossbar. Horta, your legend might have been something had you scored that goal. But hopefully you're enjoying life in Portugal. I know you are.
Yeah, there you go. It turns out we got the wrong Horta, right? The other one was pretty good for a little while.
The other one was the better Horta for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think in that 43rd minute, by the way, in that corner kick that Denis had, I think he was going for the Olympico that Patrick Schulte had.
100%.
I mean, that would have been the coolest thing ever. What's up, Fernando? I think that would have been the coolest thing ever if Denis got the Olympico. So we get to halftime. Nothing happens in stoppage. We had 1 whole minute of stoppage. But look, LAFC up 1-0. And Philly and I, sitting right next to each other, all we kept saying after that was keep the 0. Keep the 0. Make sure that that's the most important thing. And, of course, 1-0. But I was shocked, I tell you, to see what happened at halftime when Eric Smith makes the announcement, substitution by Columbus Crew, coming on Taha Habrune and coming off, I mean, after what was a really rough half, but still the reigning defensive player of the year, best 11 selection and all-star, Steven Moreira coming off. What we know, Philly, is that Wilfred Nancy didn't wave the white flag until much later on, right? When he took off Darlington Nagbe, took off a couple of the guys. This was strictly apparently a matter of performance from Steven Moreira, and yikes.
Performance anxiety. What can I say? The Galaxy, you got a bunch of messages about me on a Galaxy pod? What in the hell are you talking about, bro? I host an ABC radio show in the IE called Soccer in 60. We're sure we talk about the Galaxy. That's what media is, bro. If you note the tone in my voice when we talk about him, it's anything less than enthused. So they can message you all you want. At the end of the day, I am a media professional and I get paid to give my opinions on things. So we talk about the Galaxy on a show brought to you by the Empire Strikers. So that's the story with that.
Lafferty, what are we waving there in front of you? What was going on there? The white flag? Is that what that was?
Yeah, you mentioned a white flag, and so I waved the only white that I had. Or like earlier, you said a yellow card, so I held up the notepad with the yellow on there.
Yeah.
Things, Scarf, things.
I love it. I love it. Look, let me tell you what the thing was. How about less than a minute into the half? I looked, and I don't think I saw it on SportsCenter's top 10. But I gotta take a look. I don't think I saw it on SportsCenter's top 10. But can we all just take a moment and talk about the cheekiest of chips? That incredible goal by Denis Bouanga. I mean, look, it was nice to have vintage Denis Bouanga back, right, Philly?
Well, what was unfortunate about that is we weren't exactly in our seats at the time that goal was scored because it happened so quickly. And that's the thing about LAFC and Denis Bouanga coming out of the locker room. How many times have you and I been out of our seats for moments and then all of a sudden Denis does his thing? Yes, that was in the purest of forms a golazo. But what we do know about Denis Bouanga is that it's not just one with him. He literally is a goal-scoring can of Pringles. Once he pops, he can't stop. And thanks to our homie in the media world, Josh Gross, yesterday brought something up very interesting that I want to parlay on over y'all.
Yeah.
Denis, last season, in the first 4 games of the year, no goals. 5th game, a brace. What happens? History repeated itself. This season, first 4 games of the season, goose eggs, baby. Goose eggs. And you know how much eggs go these days. They're expensive. But this time around, he gets himself a brace. He bagged that one beautifully. Denis Bouanga is back. And quite honestly, for us to have multiple goal games, it has to be from him. He is that guy. Obviously, we all love David Martinez. We love the player that we'll talk about momentarily, Jeremy Abobasi. But if we're going to be a high-scoring team, it's got to come by way of Denis Bouanga's foot.
No, you're absolutely right. And I'll say this. Denis Bouanga scored dozens of goals for us. That one might rank up there as the prettiest one I've seen Denis Bouanga score. I mean, the touch.
It won't beat the one he scored in Portland, Scarf.
No, that's true. But the touch and the pace and everything, oh my goodness. Like it was absolutely beautiful. We could have had a couple more. We had a little give and go from Denis to Ryan Hollingshead and the header back to Denis Bouanga. I'll give Schulte. Denis went low. Schulte saw it there. Rebound came off to David Martinez and Lafferty. I don't know what you think, but first of 2 that I think David Martinez should have at least put on frame, if not put in the back of the net.
Yeah, he had a lot of great looks last night, and sure, they didn't go in the back of the net, but we were just talking about Denis Bouanga this time last year. He had a lot of great looks that didn't go in the back of the net. In fact, he was the golden crossbar leader, it felt like, at that point early last year. But it's a great sign that David Martinez is also getting those looks at the same time as Denis Bouanga, while still having other scoring threats out there like Abobasi or Daz after Martinez comes off. So what I'm seeing is the opposite of what Columbus was having so far this year, is that we have a wide breadth of potential goal scorers out there. And it's great to see when a team like Columbus doesn't.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, right? Potential goal scorers. Jason Russell-Rowe comes on in the 64th minute. I felt like that was Wilfred Nancy's pushing the chips toward the front of the table or toward the center of the table because they needed to get some offense going. They looked absolutely miserable. So they bring on Max Arfston, who he got some offense going for a second there. And Jason Russell-Rowe, who has 2 of the 4 goals scored by Columbus players this season, even though they have 5. But Philly, you were the one that was sitting there. I had, of course, gotten up for a second. But you were the one that was sitting there watching David Martinez miss what you called an absolute sitter.
So are we not going to tell the millions?
And millions?
Why you weren't at the time?
I mean, we don't have to.
All right, fine.
Listen,
just to maintain family-friendly decorum, we won't mention why. But it's quite funny. Nevertheless.
My tumbles rumbled.
All right, well, then you let the cat out of the bag, or we should say the crap out of the bag.
Oh, boy.
I make myself laugh. Yeah, dude, on a counter, Denis Bouanga connects with David Martinez beautifully, absolutely beautifully. The kid had Schulte beaten. Carves it into the left side. Unfortunately, it was to the left of the post, not to the right of the post. And that's one of those plays where you have to put it through. It doesn't get any easier for that for a player like David Martinez. Sure, he's seen some flashes of brilliance, but if he wants to be that guy, and we need him to be that guy, he needs to finish those, because now we're still sitting on 2-0, right? As we know, when we played Colorado, 2-0 wasn't essentially a good thing for them either. And you mentioned that the Columbus Crew did have a couple of opportunities with some of the substitutions they make. If he does not put that in and Columbus scores another one, we're heading into the Midwest with a whole different set of circumstance. Lucky that wouldn't be the case, but that's one of those goals that you absolutely have to smash through the nylons. No question about it. He does all that hard work. Dribbles through so many players, might kick somebody in the back with a shot fired on goal, but you don't get as open as that. You got to finish those opportunities.
Yeah, you absolutely have to finish that. We had Marky Delgado springing Denis Bouanga, who beat his man, turned the corner. And again, solid job by Patrick Schulte. He came out, he stayed wide. It was a kick save, denying Denis Bouanga the hat trick there in the 68th minute. And then that one touch and go from David Martinez in the 73rd, where Schulte, again, gets a touch to it, but he spills it. Denis was crashing in, just couldn't get a clean touch on it. What we saw from when we scored the goal until like the 81st minute when we get another, Philly, Lafferty, it was just opportunity after opportunity after opportunity for LAFC, and nothing. Surprisingly, absolutely nothing for what wound up being an inept Columbus Crew offense, save for a couple of moments. That's you.
Me?
Yeah, Lafferty, go.
No. Hey, you know what? I'll take it. I mean, like we said before, they've beaten us in a variety of different ways. And even if it with being up to nothing, if we were going to have the game in hand and still win, just like with Colorado, getting that late one back in stoppage time, really played in our favor and really swung the momentum of how the series was going to go. So, hey, if they're going to keep missing those shots and just not being able to connect, and if our defense is going to be able to stifle them still late in the game as they were, then I'll take it not only for the result, but it's encouraging how we were playing so well for the entire 90 minutes. And real quick, that's something that Steve talked about was coming into this game, he wanted our defense to know that these guys are going to make you run for 90 minutes. And what he said was our guys were up to the task the entire time. So I'm taking this not only for the win on the score sheet, but also a lot of the different wins that we've seen with how our team's performing and a lot of improvements we've made from one year to the next.
No, you're absolutely right. And look, it was impressive to see that the Crew just got handled the way they did. Again, now look, now you've backed him into a corner, so we'll see what happens in Columbus. But 81st minute, look, it already could have been 3 several other times. Philly and I, we were talking about it. I thought you were going to ask Steve. I forgot to remind you, Philly, in the press conference again about the question, but I don't want to say it out loud here, so I want to make sure you ask it in the press conference next time you're there. But Denis Bouanga on the corner kick, and what we've seen are there's not a lot of touch on Denis Bouanga's corner kicks. They're pretty much a low flying laser beam. But this one, luckily, had a little bit more height on it and a little less pace. And luckily, Ryan Hollingshead kind of bodies his man. I had a hard time seeing who that was that couldn't really head the ball out of trouble there for Columbus. It kind of was in between Ryan and his defender. And it comes right out to Nate the Great. And I mean, look, apparently, according to both Steve Trundolo and Nathan Ordaz, it was like his only good moment of the match. But look, we'll take it if your only good moment of the match puts us up 3-0, right, Philly?
I mean, yes, because up to that point, I couldn't recall whether or not Nathan Ordaz had a good or a bad game. But that one-timer was world-class. And I was doing a little research Apparently, it costs somewhere between $435 and $450 in the state of California to file a petition to change your first name. Apparently, you got to go to the Superior Court in your county of residence. And I know Nathan Ordaz was born in Van Nuys. So that being the case, why am I bringing this up? Because he needs to change his name to Newcomb Ordaz, because that's absolutely what he did with that one-timer. He nuked it past Schulte in the most emphatic of ways. No question about it. His finest goal as a professional soccer player. And there were a couple other moments that stood out to me. At one point, and you and I mentioned this while we were in the press box, he was bodied up in the midfield and he didn't give up the ball. I forgot who it was on Columbus that attacked him, but Nate stood up, stood with it, and advanced the ball forward. I believe he caught Palencia maybe on the right side. But at that point, that's the story of a kid who's gone to the weight room, who's filled out a little bit, puberty being a little more kinder to him, his voice being a little more baritone. So this is a kid who no doubt has worked hard and enjoying the fruits of his labor, because if we're looking at Nathan Ordaz having a bad game, scoring a one-timer like that, there's good things in front of this kid's future. And I'm going to say it right now. This kid played himself in front of David Martinez because he can finish. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you can get your moves, get past the defenders, this, and that. You got to score. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter unless you score. And as Gordon Bombay once learned when he was a member of the Hawks and Mighty Ducks, it's not worth winning if you can't win big. And that was a big way to win.
Yeah, look, I don't know that I agree with, well, I'll say this. Nathan Ordaz has played himself in front of David Martinez. I don't disagree with that. I don't know that I agree that he will be starting in front of David Martinez. But if you just take the play through the first 5 games, I think that the things that'll show up on the back of the top soccer card for next year for Nathan Ordaz look a lot better than the things that'll show up on the back of the top soccer card for David Martinez. But I just think David Martinez gives you a little bit more in terms of what he can do with the ball at his feet, whereas I think Nathan Ordaz and what he's proved he can do very, very well early in the season is more of a straight line goal scorer. But turns out we need a straight line goal scorer right now. So I'm all for Nathan Ordaz. I'm with you. I hear you. I don't know. They invested so much money in David Martinez.
Damn thing. We invested a lot of money in Andre Horta, who's in the chat. We invested a lot of money in Brian Rodriguez. None of that matters. And yeah, I mean, people can disagree with me. That's fine. What Martinez does have is a lot more flash than Ordaz does. But to me, none of that ish matters if you can't score. Do the flicks. Get the shots. You miss your sitters and you don't score your goals. I don't care how talented you are with your feet. Brian Rodriguez was great at breaking down defenders. What was Brian Rodriguez not good at doing? Scoring effing goals. And obviously, the body of work is not similar. It's not the same. We need to have more. But to me, I'm going with Newcomb Ordaz for a little while.
Philly, you've hurt Andre Horta's feelings. I just want you to know that. He says that.
Andre Horta's enjoying being in the top flight in Portugal and playing in Champions League. He doesn't care about us.
I love Andy's quote that Horta in the chat tonight is better than anything he did in an LAFC jersey. Look, what I was kind of shocked about, at least the way that it happened, is the way that I saw the crew kind of stop playing, especially after the 83rd minute. Hey, that's the scarf minute. We haven't had anything happen in the scarf minute yet this season. My favorite player on Columbus comes off, that being Darlington Nagbe, so that they could save his legs a little bit for a match they have in just a couple of days in Houston. And then, we asked Steve about this in the chat. I mean, in the press conference, not in the chat. I don't think Steve is in the chat today, but
yeah, Steve's all about being in the socials. You know how much he loves that.
But we asked Steve about this in the press conference, and he said Igor Jesus came off in the 85th minute, not necessarily because he looked beat up and broken, even though as he came off, he looked a little beat up and broken, but also that he was sitting on a yellow, so it was precautionary. They wanted to get him out of there, didn't want the red or yellow to become a red, as they said. So Eddie Segura comes on. Eddie's played very, very well for us. And then we bring on the closer, baby. That's my nickname for Nkosi Tafari. Don't try to tell us your nickname again, Lafferty. We don't want the third time of see, now he's doing it on purpose. The closer and Cozy Tafari for Jeremy Abobasi. But Chris Lafferty, as you were watching the match or the highlights of the match, they brought on a sub in the 64th minute, did Columbus, by the name of Max Arfston. And Max Arfston almost put a real damper on the party there in stoppage time right before the final whistle.
Like we said, those guys, for the first time, Columbus was playing with their heels back. Like we had them digging in their heels. We had them on their heels for the first time. There we go. Yeah. I know I just had to dig a little bit for it, but I got it. Look, this was the first time that we had Columbus, playing from behind. And so they were, maybe a little unsure, maybe thrown off their game a little bit. They weren't expecting us to come out and punch them in the mouth like we did. But the thing about Columbus, and especially a team coached by Wilfred Nancy, is that they are never going to be out of it. And they're never going to quit either. So, hey, it's no surprise that they were still giving it their all the way to the final whistle. But fortunately, like I've said a million times now, our defense just continues to stay stout. And for all the attack that they were going to give for that 90-plus minutes, our defense was going to hang tight right there with them.
Yeah, and look, Arfston off the crossbar. Crossbar was our best defender there with, 2.5 minutes into stoppage time. They're never going to give you up, is what they said, Lafferty. There you go. You might have the start of a Rickroll there. Philly, I know you're a stats guy because you're the one that goes over all the stats after the match. Look, I said in One More Sleep that LAFC might have to absorb a lot of possession from Columbus. Philly, walk us through especially that stat on possession. It was even more lopsided than I thought it would be.
Columbus had 90%, no, almost 91%. I'm sorry, that was passing accuracy. As far as I'm a little tired. What do you want from me? Look, possession is a philosophical thing. What I want to say is this: one shot on goal. That is the key metric right there. They could have the 90% passing accuracy on 676 shots. That's all fine and dandy. But if you don't find your opportunities, you don't find your opportunities. That's it. That was Columbus. But you alluded to it. A team coached by Nancy is still a devastating team. This guy might still be, if not is, the best coach in Major League Soccer. Now, a 3-0 deficit going into a leg two is not something that hasn't been achieved. You'd have to go back to the relegation battle in the Bundesliga a season or so ago when Fortuna Dusseldorf went up on Bochum 3-0 and Bochum came back and ended up winning. Still a possibility. But as we were getting ready as I was getting ready to surprise y'all, my good friend Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson hopped into my room. There he is. Dwayne, how you doing? Hello, Philly. And he had one thing that he wanted to say to the millions.
And millions.
There are millions.
Finally, the black and gold have beaten up on Columbus. And that's the bottom line because Philly 316 said so. King Lucero, those tequila shots on me when you get that shirt, buddy. Very impressive performance. Yes, not the Columbus of old. And this is a Columbus team that's got many of the experts kind of baffled. If you look at the early season predictions, you can go to Ozzie Alonso thinking that they're going to finish as low as 9th in the Eastern Conference. And then you could bring it to friend of the pod and LAFC, Bradley Wright Phillips, who thinks they could finish 2nd in the Eastern Conference. Still a team with a lot of room to grow, but where they didn't grow was in leg one. We kept those mother truckers rooted in the dirt, baby, and we're going to go into their home and candy slap their bitch asses all around the Midwest.
The possession number, by the way, just in case anyone was curious, 68-32 was the possession number, which was even more lopsided than I thought it would be. Look, just in case you thought that we get a week in between our matches and get to just play Columbus on the road next Tuesday, March 11th at 5:30 at lower.com field. No, my friends. We head up to Seattle March 8th at 1:45. Y'all better get to know names like Jude Terry and Adam Saldana and Adrian Wabowo because I think we are going to see some roster rotation when it comes to who we field up there in Seattle. Remember, the game is on turf. The game is at 1:45, which is early for a Saturday, so like several hours less of recovery. Oh my goodness. I think this might be one, you guys, where we are hoping for a draw on the road, and we take that one as a win because, look, what we know that Steve Cherundolo now needs to do is push all his chips into the middle to hold that 3-0 aggregate lead in Columbus so that we get to take on, most likely, Lionel Messi at home.
Andre Horta, the only Funko Pop that I have whose name begins with an A is Alice Cooper. But he's going to go on hiatus right now because he needs to feed his Frankenstein. That's the only Funko Pop I have that begins with an A. Lafferty, what are your thoughts? Not about Alice Cooper, Andre Horta.
Soccer? Oh, okay. Yeah, so the thing is with having to rotate our roster as much as we have this year, Steve's done a really great job at it. And kind of like his first year with his halftime substitutions, it seems like he always knew what string to pull when and who to put in and who to take out. And he's done a really great job. And while he's had to, he's done a really great job of making sure our roster is rotated properly, making sure we get enough guys rested to come out, and also making sure that even though we have such a quick turnaround in between each game, our guys are going in there and they're not looking gassed or tired or looking like it's so early on in the season. So, I'm going to say something that it's going to be a pretty bold take and one that's not always popular in the LAFC universe, but I believe in Steve to make the right calls and to get this roster as fine-tuned as it can be. And I've got full faith in him that whatever he does, whatever he decides, we're going to go up to Seattle and we're going to come back with a victory.
So
it's like watching a zoo here with all of these animals and dolls and everything coming out.
So
I know
there
you're
might not
Scarf.
Philly, there might not be Andre Horta, but there's definitely Andre the Giant here on the pod with the Funko Pop. This, by the way, courtesy of Tony. Thank you, Tony. Love you, buddy. The Andre the Giant pod. I'll put a little mini, or it actually have to be a pretty big Andre Horta jersey on this one, and it could be Andre Horta the Giant for our next podcast. How's that?
I like that.
Andre, we appreciate you being in the chat, not obviously Andre the Giant, because that would be supernatural, if anything. But look, we've talked about it, guys, in a bunch of different ways. But a Genuine Cougar, yes, the only thing you can call that jersey is the Charlie Brown jersey. That is it. But by the way, the other jersey that they wear, the Goosebumps jersey this year, is probably the best one in terms of backstory of any of the new kits this year. We'll actually we're going to do it probably, Philly, closer to the All-Star break or so, where we go through all the kits this season and we talk about each of them. Turns out we need some free time to be able to do all that stuff.
I don't have any of that till May.
But look, we got 2 matches coming up, you guys, in the next 6 days. March 8th, Saturday, in Seattle, where Andre Horta, we might need to call you up and see what happens. And then, of course, March 11th, lower.com field, y'all. If y'all are going to that match, by the way, it's miserable in Columbus this time of year, so have fun with that. But it should be a lot of fun. Look, it's been a fun episode, y'all. We're another hour and 9 minutes in, and no, everything. I'm all for it. I just got to say this too to everybody out there, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the podcast platforms. These numbers are fantastic, you guys. Thank you from all of us here at Defenders, the entire Defenders family. Heck, including Hello Kitty. We thank you. We thank all of you for the support. It's been an incredible start to our season. It's been pod after pod after pod after pod. Head on over to defendersofthebank.com. Click that shop. And if you feel like getting anything, we got some more new stuff coming out soon. Defenders20 is the merchandise discount code. Or Head on over to 500level.com. Maybe you don't want to buy some Defenders merch. That's okay. We won't hold that against you. But maybe you need Dodgers gear for the season, or maybe you need Lakers gear for the season, or maybe you need New York Knicks gear for the season. What do you think?
New York Knicks, New York Mets, New York Islanders. I know this is the part where people are like, shut up, Philly. You've overstayed your welcome.
No, man.
Shut up, Philly.
Defenders 20. Defenders 20. Use the discount code. If it doesn't work, hit me up directly at LAFC_the scarf on Instagram or on Twitter, and I will make sure it works for you. So don't pay until you get that working. There's that beautiful Saved by the Bell t-shirt that Chris Lafferty has behind him. Really appreciate you guys. Look, y'all, it's been an hour and 10 minutes. We got Christian Philemon, Philly back in the house. We got LAFC Lafferty back. And of course, it's the scarf. And you know how we like to end each and every one of these episodes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.